Have you ever felt a lie before you heard it? It's a cold spot in the room, a change in the air pressure that only you can feel. For me, it started with the smell of unfamiliar cologne clinging to my wife's scrubs when she'd come home at 3 a.m. from another late shift at the hospital. She'd stand in the doorway of our bedroom, her silhouette framed by the dim hallway light, and the smile she gave me never quite reached her eyes. It was a performance, and I was the unwilling audience. The first time I found the receipt for a dinner I knew we never had. At a restaurant on the other side of Chicago, my hands started shaking. I knew right then that the life I had built was a carefully constructed stage, and the curtains were about to be torn down. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Sarah had always been ambitious. When she started volunteering for every late shift, every holiday, I thought it was just her drive. "It's for us, babe," she'd say, kissing my cheek, her touch feeling more like a formality than affection. A little extra now means a better life later. I was proud of her. A doting husband, working from our downtown Chicago apartment, managing my graphic design business while she saved lives. But the pride slowly curdled into a knot of suspicion in my gut. The late shifts became more frequent, her texts more sparse. "Quick love you," going in would be the last I'd hear for 10 hours. When she came home, she was distant, her body tense under my touch. She'd blame it on stress, on the trauma of the ER. I bought it. I wanted to buy it. The first real crack in the facade was a credit card alert. A $250 charge at Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse on Rush Street. It was a Tuesday. She was supposed to be covering for a sick colleague. When I asked her about it, her eyes went flat and cold. "Oh, the girls and I went out after work." To decompress, the lie was so smooth, so practiced, it was almost impressive. But I knew her friends. A quick, casual text to her supposed dinner companion confirmed my fear. Dinner. No, I was home with the kids. Sarah was working, wasn't she? The screen of my phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot flush that crawled up my neck. She wasn't just lying. She was making me feel insane for even asking. From then on, I became a detective in my own home. Noticed the way she angled her phone away from me, the sudden password she put on her laptop. One night, she fell asleep on the couch, her phone buzzing on the coffee table. The name on the screen was Mark Cardiology. The message was a single, damning sentence. "Tonight was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." My world tilted on its axis. Mark, I knew him. A smug, self-satisfied surgeon from her department, the kind of guy who wore his success like a cheap suit. They felt untouchable, laughing in the sterile hallways of the hospital while I sat at home, my trust bleeding out on the floor of our perfect life. The breakdown happened on a rainy Thursday. I was sitting in my car across from the hospital, parked in the shadow of a parking garage on North Fairbanks Court. I just wanted to see for myself. And I did. I saw them walk out together, his arm draped possessively around her waist. I saw him lean in and kiss her, a long, lingering kiss under the sickly yellow glow of a streetlight. She didn't just let him, she melted into him. In that moment, something inside me shattered. The love, the loyalty, the future I'd imagined, it all turned to dust. I drove home in a daze, the rain on the windshield blurring the city lights into a meaningless smear. I sat in the dark of our living room for hours, the silence screaming louder than any words. The loyal husband was gone. In his place, something cold and strategic began to take root. My grief turned into a quiet, methodical rage. The first step was proof. I installed a keylogger on her laptop and a voice-activated recorder in her car. The conversations I captured were sickening. They talked about me, about my naivety. "He has no idea," she'd giggle, the sound like glass grinding in my ears. "He's so wrapped up in his little designs, he wouldn't notice if the world was ending." Mark would laugh with her. They planned weekends away, disguised as medical conferences. I saved every recording, every screenshot of their explicit texts, every hotel receipt I found in her glove compartment. I contacted a divorce lawyer, a shark named Mr. Davies on LaSalle Street. I laid out the evidence. His only advice was, "Wait, don't let her know you know. We're not just going for a divorce, we're going for annihilation." The trap was set for our 5th wedding anniversary. Sarah, in a stunning display of audacity, had planned a huge party at our apartment, inviting all our friends, family, and her colleagues, including Mark. A celebration of us, she'd called it. Her hypocrisy, a blade twisting in my gut. 2 days before the party, I made my move. I filed for divorce, citing infidelity, and attached a mountain of evidence. I had our joint accounts frozen, sent a carefully curated package to the hospital's board of directors and the head of human resources. It contained transcripts of their conversations and her car conversations, where they not only detailed their affair, but also mocked patients and discussed sharing prescription drugs. I included photos of them I'd taken from a distance, entering a hotel in Lincoln Park. The night of the party was a masterpiece of social destruction. Guests arrived oblivious. Sarah was radiant, the perfect hostess. Mark was there, shaking my hand, a smug look on his face. At 8 p.m., just as Sarah was about to give a toast to her amazing, supportive husband, the first call came. It was the head of her department. I watched the color drain from her face. Then Mark's phone buzzed. It was the hospital's legal team. Simultaneously, our friends' phones began to light up with notifications. I had scheduled an email to go out to every single guest, with a link to a password-protected website. The password? Loyalty. On it was a fraction of the evidence, the restaurant receipts, the hotel bookings, a few of the tamer text messages. The room fell silent. The humiliation was palpable. People started looking at her, then at Mark, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. They were exposed, stripped bare in front of everyone they knew. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a horror that was more beautiful than any smile she'd ever given me. I just held her gaze, my expression unreadable, and took a slow sip of my whiskey. She was fired the next day, citing gross professional misconduct. Mark was suspended pending a full investigation. The divorce was brutal and swift. With the infidelity clause and the evidence of her using joint funds to finance the affair, she got nothing. At the apartment, not a cent of my business, nothing. Our friends, my family, they all sided with me. She was a pariah. The last I heard, she was living in a cramped apartment out in the suburbs, working as a receptionist at a dental clinic. The arrogant, untouchable woman was gone, replaced by a ghost. Sometimes I walk past that steakhouse on Rush Street. The streetlights still cast that same sickly yellow glow. I don't feel anger anymore, or sadness. I just feel the quiet, haunting emptiness of a house that's been swept clean after a storm. The end.